Hello everybody, and welcome to another Japan game showcase. Today we're going to have a look at Shadow Hearts II. That's right, Shadow Hearts II. I find this, so bizarre that import people that do game imports are always obsessed with sequel numbers. I mean, you've got Tales of Destiny, which is Tales of Destiny, and then you've got Tales of Eternia, which is Tales of Destiny 2. It's like, okay, so we gotta have a sequel, right? Then you have something like Dark Cloud, which was Dark Cloud, and then you have Dark Chronicle, which came out a bit later, not a sequel at all, and of course it was renamed to Dark Cloud 2. Even though it's not a sequel. So then we have Shadow Hearts, a very kind of forgotten RPG, but a very, very cool RPG and definitely underappreciated. And then the sequel came out, Shadow Hearts 2. So you'd think that they would be, satisfied. Oh, hey, it's a sequel. But no, it had to be renamed Shadow Hearts Covenant. What the heck? Anyway, I have no clue what they're thinking. They're a bunch of retards. It's like, we must make the game our own. It's already called a sequel. We'll have to do something else. I think the cover art for the import shows Karen here on the front instead of Uru, which the Japanese version has. But this is a very cool RPG that's kind of underappreciated and I think forgotten. It's a two-disc game, which I think is also kind of rare for PlayStation 2, but anyway, a very cool set of characters and a very unique and interesting battle system, which I'll get to as we actually get to the game footage, but I just wanted to quickly show the Japanese manual here. And of course, one discrepancy. The main character's name is Uru, U-R-U, Uru, not Yuri. Yuri is the hero from Tales of Vesperia. So this is not Yuri. They renamed the main character for some reason. His real name is Uru, but I think everybody else kept the same name. Karen. The dog is Blanca. Not the Street Fighter 2 character, but hey, he's still pretty cool. And you've got the old man and his dolls, Zeppetto, which is probably supposed to be Geppetto. And then you've got some of the villain characters in the game, Veronica and Lenny. But this game uses a very interesting battle system. It's a Final Fantasy style. Turn-based battle, which I'm always a fan of, but it uses this interesting timer ring to do your combos, and the concept isn't really all that unique to this game. I've actually seen the exact same similar style of combat in other games, so it's not necessarily unique to this game. People say this game is really unique. But honestly, something like Legend of Dragoon has a very similar timing system for, when you do attacks and when you press the button. But it's still actually a really good RPG, very interesting. The main character can take different forms, which adds a little bit of depth to the battle system. But hey, let's go ahead and take a look at it. Let's take a look at Uru in action. Dude, he's like missing a hand there in that picture. I guess it's just the way artists like to do stuff. But yeah, let's take a look at not Shadow Hearts Covenant, as it was renamed, but its real name, Shadow Hearts II, as a true sequel to the original Shadow Hearts. Let's check it out.
So get this, I was just walking down the street one day in my neighborhood and I saw this creepy old house and I thought I would just go in and have a look, being curious and everything. First thing I noticed was it was like a ghost house almost. I mean, the table got in my way and I couldn't move. The windows were clattering in the wind. I decided I'd go upstairs, where it would probably be safer. Needed to get out my lantern, because the halls were dark and eerie. There were creepy paintings everywhere looking at me. I reached the end of the hall, and suddenly there was the breaking of glass. I was accosted by gokiburi. A lot of gokiburi. And these were not the usual gokiburi. These were man-eating gokiburi. So I had my friends pull out their trusty flame attacks, because there was no way I was gonna let these gokiburi get the best of me, that's for sure. Fortunately, my trusty pet was with me, and I told him to just use his lightning powers on those gokiburi. Then I decided I'd be really brave and punch them. That's right, punch those big gokiburi into oblivion. Suddenly one attacked my girl, but then I used my really, really big guy, who's carrying a giant skyscraper, to whack them to death. Whew. And that took care of the cockroach problem. At least for the moment. I was still a little interested in the house. So after picking up a lottery ticket, which a cockroach dropped, I thought I would look around the house a little bit more. Which, in hindsight now, was not a good idea. Because once again, there was the shattering of glass. And this time we were surrounded by gokiburi. I tried to get away, but then my worst nightmare happened. Yes, it truly was a nightmare. Oh God, get him off me! Get him off me! Get him off me! Ah! I had my girl do some fire again, because we became the gokiburi exterminators. Even though my dog was wounded, he still did his job and took care of the rest of the gokiburi. And that's all in a day's work for Shadow Hearts 2. Welcome to this look at Shadow Hearts II, everybody. A very underappreciated and just all-around amazing turn-based RPG. Now this game has a lot to offer in the way of story and bosses, enemy fights, characters, scenery, just all around the dungeons, maps, puzzles. Everything in this game is just quite amazing. So in this video, we're going to take a look at this underappreciated game. We'll take a look at all the characters, how the battle system works, some of the enemies, the amazing cutscenes, the wonderful storyline, puzzles, you name it, we'll take a look at all of it. Now, Shadow Hearts II is a turn-based game that uses this kind of ring that you have to hit the button at just the right moment. If you hit it in the red spots, then you get a critical attack. And depending on if you miss or hit, it powers up or weakens your attack. So if you're a fan of turn-based games, then this is definitely one that you would probably like. In the old kind of Final Fantasy style, but with a twist. Now there are lots of great enemy encounters, quite a variety of enemies, and also we have some pretty epic boss fights as well in this game, with buxom ladies, of course. Now, the main character in the game, Uru, can do a fusion with different demons, and this gives him an interesting demon form that gives him special abilities, special elements, or just buffs up his attacks, makes him much stronger. There's a variety of spells that can be equipped. And everybody loves fighting a 8-breasted thing. And the cutscene story is just amazing. For PlayStation 2 days, incredibly well done, and the storytelling is just epic. And this game is a true sequel to the original Shadow Hearts. The story continues with the main character from the original game. Before we get into this video in detail, let's go ahead and take a look at all the characters in this game. There are a total of 8 playable characters that join you during the story, and each is quite unique in their abilities, their attack, and how you use them. They've each got a pivotal role to play in the story as well. So let's take a look at our entire roster here of wonderful heroes. So first on the list is Karin, who in my opinion is the MVP of the game. She is the main female lead, and she has quite an arsenal of skills and attacks. Her ring gives quite a large combo, and she can also be equipped with lots of very, very useful spells and skills. Just makes her very flexible. She also has sword techniques that she uses with her sword, which are also very powerful. Next we have Lucia, or Lucia, however you wish to pronounce it, who's also another unique character. Not quite the greatest in battle, but she has some unique abilities that only she can bring to the fight. She has special aromatherapy abilities that she can use in battle, and these will give buffs always to the entire party depending on the combination you do, so it's quite useful. So for several turns you can have these aroma abilities. She also has a decent arsenal of spells, and she's a good spellcaster depending on how you set her up. And she can use tarot cards, which sometimes you get a bad one, but yeah, if you want to tempt fate, then that's the way you play the game. Next we have Anastasia, another very interesting character who kind of works like the blue mage if you're a Final Fantasy person. She loves to take pictures with her old style camera. Now, by taking a picture of an enemy, you can get all of its information, as well as possibly steal it. And put it in Anastasia's album, where she can use a picture that you've previously taken against an enemy. She may look like a little girl, but she packs a punch. Now, Zepeto is quite the unique and interesting character. He attacks using his marionette. Cornelia. I guess her name is Cornelia. And in combat, they work together, doing different spells, or he just uses Cornelia herself to wreak havoc on the enemy. He's actually one tough old guy. And by having it be sort of a team duo, some of the spells are quite devastating, as he casts them with Cornelia. Now, before we go on to the other characters, one unique thing about Zepeto is that Cornelia can have different outfits. And depending on the outfits you unlock during the game, this is Alice from the original Shadow Hearts. You get different elemental affinities and different abilities depending on which outfit you're wearing. And of course, you know, it's just all for cutesy purposes. You can just choose the outfit that you want, depending on your hobby. If you want cute squirrel raccoon girl, or if you want S&M style outfit. If you want a vampire girl. Isn't she cute? Here's her angel, because she's an angel. a very vicious angel at some times. She also has elemental outfits for each of the major 4 elementals in the game. And of course, in the beginning here, I wanted to show the Alice outfit, which I was reading somewhere was cut from the English release of this game. Now, I'm not sure if that's true or not, because I've never played the English version of Shadow Hearts II, which of course was renamed. But apparently there was one outfit of Cornelia's that's only in the Japanese version. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I'd be interested to know if that is true or not. But of course, we'll be looking at the Japanese one here, which doesn't have any cuts. Hey, is that the female version of Toad? And then, of course, here's Cornelia's basic outfit that she starts the game with. But the Alice outfit I find is quite nice. And it's a great throwback to the original Shadow Hearts 1, having Cornelia dressed as Alice. Moving on from our sort of perverted old man, we have our hero, Uru. Yes, his name is Uru, not Yuri. Now, Uru has the ability to fuse with different demon souls, and he can use them in combat. He can also level them up, strengthen them by using soul energy, which you gain from each fight. Each of the fusions has, unique abilities and weaknesses and strengths depending on the situation. I find it to be a little overwhelming. I think there was quite maybe too many fusion souls for Uru to use. It can be pretty confusing and a little overwhelming at times. But this gives our main character, quite a few options in combat, and overall just in combat in general, he's quite useful. His ring has up to 5-hit combo, and he can also use spells, and takes quite a beating of damage as well, if you need a good tank. Next we have Samurai Boy, which is what I'm going to call him. I didn't really use this character very much when I originally played this game, but he also has a kind of fusion soul like Uru, but unfortunately he only has 2 of them. But you could call that a good thing because it might make him a little easier to use, and his ring has got quite a few spots on it when you level him up, making him also a really good comboist. He's also good at blocking bullets, apparently. Next we have Yoahim, in Japanese katakana, which is probably Jehoiakim. And he's this big, buff, crazy guy that likes to carry giant objects around on his shoulders, and he uses them to whack people to death. He also transforms into a bat. Don't ask me why. His ring is a little bit harder to use than other characters, but if you get it all in, he can do quite the beatdown. Oh yeah, and if you're into humor, Jehoiakim's great. He likes to just steal things and use them as his weapon. I'm surprised those Japanese businessmen are okay with him just picking up their sign-up table and him walking away with it. And how does the paper and pen stay on the table? I don't know. But yeah, he just takes stuff and uses it. Next we have our feline friend, Blanca, who's a very, very awesome animal character in this game, not to be confused with Street Fighter II Blanca. Blanca has quite a few wolf abilities, and there's even a mini-game that you can play throughout the game where you fight other wolves, the Wolf Bout, which can power up Blanca's abilities. Each one has a unique challenge. And don't ask me about that one. Don't want to talk about it. Blanca also has a pretty good ring that's not too difficult to use, and his combos do quite a bit of munching damage on the enemy. And his wolf skills are often coming in handy. The game has quite a complex story and quite a bit of nice romance in it as well. So if you're craving a good story with a bit of lovely romance, then Shadow Hearts II is definitely for you. One other unique aspect about the game is the graveyard that Uru can enter, and especially in this scene, Karin goes with him. But in the graveyard is where Uru's soul is kind of trapped, and where he can manipulate and power up his summon fusions. It also adds quite an interesting depth to the story, which I don't want to spoil too much in this video. But it's a really cool part of the game where you can manage things and enter the graveyard at will. Are you a fan of adventure? Do you like Indiana Jones? Well, guess what? This game has an Indiana Jones minecart chase. The music is great, and when you get far enough into the game, you'll realize that there's a lot of parts that are not taken too seriously, which makes for some pretty hilarious situations. I must say the comedy in this game is top-notch. And of course, you can't go wrong with Metal Gear Solid, dog. Are you into puzzles? Do you like your RPGs to have lots of puzzles? Well, Shadow Hearts II has a lot of puzzles. Very interesting puzzles, in fact, and some of them are quite difficult. This is not your typical just bread and butter easy puzzles. Some of the dungeons have very complex puzzles, including this interesting Key of Solomon puzzle which you can work on throughout the game. Quite an interesting sort of map-based puzzle that you can use to power up some of the spells in the game. And of course, by completing this puzzle, you get a secret boss fight, which I won't be mentioning at this time, to keep the spoilers at a minimum. Well, yeah, as well as, menu-based puzzles that you have to work on, there are also quite a few physical puzzles in the dungeons. And when I played through this, I found that they were quite, difficult. You really have to think on some of them. They start out, fairly simple, but over time they become more and more complex. Color-changing blocks, moving around different rooms. The puzzles in the game are definitely a challenge, which was refreshing, in my opinion. A lot of games have just, easy puzzles that are almost, sort of one way. But the puzzles in Shadow Hearts II pretty complicated, pretty difficult, and you have to really think. Set things up, make your moves. And if you mess up, you'll probably be hurting, being stuck in the dungeon for hours, going in circles. But that was one of the things that made this game so great. Definitely no hand-holding here. The challenge is way up there. So if you're a fan of puzzle-like dungeons and, tricky tests, traps, things like that, this game has plenty of that to scratch your itch and to rack your brain. Either that or force you to go to the internet and look for a walkthrough. Oh yeah, and the game even has, mini games. If you felt like it was lacking mini games, well, of course, there's lots of mini games. Mostly to drive you insane and make you go crazy. The game also has a fairly complex map system with lots and lots of different places to visit as you go throughout the game and traverse the various areas. Not only is the map in this game huge, you can trigger events or talk to people, and extra areas will appear on the map, which are the game's extra dungeons and optional areas. But the game goes over 2 continents, mostly takes place in Europe, But also there are quite a few areas to explore in Japan as well. So that's what you get for having a 2-disc game. You get to explore 2 continents of the world. There are also some side characters that you get to play as the story progresses. And it gives you a very kind of interesting perspective on the game as you get to see it from the angles of some of the other characters in the game, as well as, you know, what they're up to, what they're doing, their purpose for fighting. And just overall gives quite a bit of nice variety to the game, I found. I was quite surprised suddenly playing as a different character and then having a different ring that you're not used to. Having grenades thrown at me, that was definitely not a good day. Yeah, it's not a true RPG unless it has a shooting gallery that uses the PlayStation square, circle, X, triangle buttons. More mini-games to be frustrated at and throw your controller down in great rage. Yeah, I know you wanted to replace that old controller. You've just been looking for an excuse to buy a new one, right? Some of the environments and dungeons that you get to walk through are just amazing in this game. They have a really nice atmosphere, great feel to them. Of course, being a game from Japan, there's a heavy emphasis on the Japanese aesthetic. Japanese style temples, Japanese style mon, gates. And old men that are floating on magical zabuton that you can beat up because they're ugly. It's actually a pretty funny story with that boss. He tries to really intimidate the heroes, but all they're wondering and contemplating is where can they get, you know, one of those flying pillows that he's sitting on. And that's really all they care about. And for me, that's all I'd be caring about too. Speaking of bosses, yeah, this game has a lot of bosses, and many of them are quite challenging and very epic fights. You really have to calculate your moves, plan your next attack, and that's one of the things that makes turn-based style games great. Is it's like a game of chess. You get a chance to plan your attacks, plan your moves. Haven't mentioned it, but the bar at the top shows the order that the characters fight in. much like a Grandia series. Grandia 1, 2, and 3 had a similar thing that shows you who's next in the lineup, who gets their turn next, and using that, you need to strategize with your moves. Decide when you need to heal. Decide maybe when the enemy is going to have their move and maybe you can prevent it. And decide when is a good turn just to get in as much damage as possible. I found the bosses in the game to be quite challenging and quite the variety as well. Normal looking enemies as well as, yeah, whatever this thing is. Definitely not something from Biohazard. Some kind of demon ball baby with arms and fairies with their heads stuck in it. Yeah, I have no clue what this thing is. But it's pretty cool. Now, of course, this is a Japanese game, so the Japan aesthetic is very heavily imprinted into the game, and it's just gorgeous. There's a lot of references to ancient Japan, Japanese culture, Japanese dress and style, and it really gives a beautiful view of Japan and the way it was years and years ago. The game takes place in the past, so of course it's going to be old-style Europe and old-style Japan. But some of the cutscenes are just so epic, you'll be wanting to watch them over and over again. Welcome to Japan.
邪悪な意志が鎧となり姿を隠している。いけない、見つかった。危ない。
小賢しい。
母様。
皆死ぬがよい。
体を乗っ取られたんだわ。
So, whether you are really interested in a great RPG that has epic boss fights, turn-based, or if you're into a game that has a lot of humor,
白いからポチがいいわ。
気に入ったらしい。
気にしないでください。
a wonderful cast of characters,
奴らのアジトを突き止めたんだ。
a beautiful and emotional story told with amazing cutscenes,
アリス。
愛しているわ。
俺も。
then I highly recommend you check out Shadow Hearts II. Just such an amazing RPG,
お父さんのことを
nothing bad to say about it, and a great sequel to the original classic.
赤ん坊の頃のことなんてほとんど覚えてない。
Check it out, everybody. I cannot recommend this game enough. Just so much fun, and if you've been missing that old style RPG feel, then this one will help you to feel it again. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next video.